Good. All right. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes, and I make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those are approved. Neither of our department heads have yet arrived. No appointments this evening, right, Randy, or is there? Actually, there was. For constable, one reappointment for Joel C. Thomas as a constable. The chiefs signed off on that. What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion, we accept the appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. No public hearings this evening. New business, we have first up rave for Read Across America Week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm Pat Riley, and with me is Kathleen Roberts and Kim Dolan, our rave volunteer coordinator. And we're actually here for two reasons. First, of course, is it's our annual Read Across America celebration. And obviously Kim is here because as the rave volunteer coordinator, she works with our co-chairs this year, Kate Dyer and Becky Mello, coordinating everything with our volunteer hostesses and our VIP guest readers. We'll, as usual, be visiting every classroom in our Raynham schools from kindergarten right up through grade 8. And Kim's been busy working with Becky and Kate, lining up our volunteers and our VIPs. And if all of you have not yet received a phone call, you will, because we're still making those calls, and we hope you can all join us. Kathleen, obviously, got us started on this back in 1998 is when it started, Kathleen, right? So I think that this makes it like the 17th annual, and I know you have a proclamation to do for us. But if Kathleen could say a couple words about how this started. It was the National Education Association.
National Education Association. I happened to be on the board at that time, and someone brought up the idea that this is a nice way, because we all feel that how important reading is, and someone said it'd be a wonderful thing for us to do for a project. So we adopted it. It's been going fine, still in good shape, and I think I'm the oldest cat around.
Kathleen comes with us to visit each school, and we will be, Kim, do you want to just go over the basic schedule?
Sure. We'll be visiting the middle school on Wednesday, March 5th at various times. And then we'll be visiting La Liberty on Thursday, March 6th at 9:30 in the morning and again at 1:30 in the afternoon. And then we'll be at the Merrill School on Friday, March 7th at 10:30 in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And for our students at Merrill and La Liberty, we'll have our traditional cupcakes for them, compliments of our food services department in the school district. So we're really looking forward to that. We're lining up all of our Dr. Seuss books, so everyone will have one to read, and we always have a great time with that. It's one of our favorite projects, obviously. Do you want to do the proclamation,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Resolution for Read Across America Week, whereas the citizens of Raynham stand firmly committed to promoting reading as a catalyst for our students' future academic success, their preparation for America's jobs of the future, and their ability to compete in a global economy. And whereas we know that most children who leave elementary school as poor readers rarely catch up, and we know that when children read outside of school, they do better in school. And whereas Read Across America is sponsored nationally by the National Education Association and others, and locally for the 14th year by the Raynham Association of Volunteers for Education, in partnership with the Bridgewater Raynham Regional School District, the Early Childhood Parents Organization at Merrill School, the La Liberty Parents Organization, the Raynham Middle School Parents Organization, and the Raynham Public Library. And whereas Read Across America celebrates the anniversary of the birthday of the famous children's author Theodore Seuss Giselle on March 2nd and promotes reading and adult involvement in the education of our community students, therefore be it hereby resolved that the Raynham Board of Selectmen proclaims the week of March 2nd through March 8th, 2014 as Read Across America Week in the town of Raynham, and calls on the citizens of the town to support the activities of Read Across America effort. Be it further resolved that the Raynham Board of Selectmen enthusiastically endorses Read Across America and recommits our community to engage in programs and activities to make our children the best readers in the world. And I'm certainly glad I'm a Raynham graduate, because that was a tongue teaser this year. Do I have a motion on that? I think you added something, Pat. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved.
We always like to make it challenging,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Our special guests, as I said, we're still lining them up, but the voice of the New England Patriots, Gil Santos, will be with us once again. Senator Pacheco is already confirmed, and Representative D'Amelia, and hopefully all of you will be joining us. I know Selectmen Pacheco and Mr. Buckner are already on the list, and we're looking forward to that. It'll be great. So if we could do our traditional Read Across America, Dr. Seuss photo.
Fits?
Yeah.
Fits, see that?
Jimmy, you want one?
I'm exempted from the hat. Hat told me earlier.
Fix his head. Come on, Jim,
you get
what's the matter with you?
Fix that for me, Mr. Chairman. Can you just tap down the front of his hat?
Yeah,
The lid.
there we go.
I don't know if to take the picture.
It should like
All set?
disappear.
Not disappearing, but something coming up on the left.
Me?
I think I got it.
Okay.
I can check it.
We pressed it a bunch of times.
Fix his hat.
Is that okay?
His
Okay.
hat's still, yeah.
Good.
Good.
Okay, all right, we're good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you. You know, they must have done a good job with you. You never missed a beat on that whole thing, which I really think is pretty damn good. I'll be honest with you. No, I mean, I would have at least missed one or two words.
It's coming week.
You memorized
Next
that.
week.
You read that before.
It's like how we used to have to remember the pledge and stuff.
And we have one other matter, if we could, Mr. Pacheco. It is our Salute to Our Veterans Committee. As you know, we started this effort back in June of 2012, expanding our Salute to Our Veterans Committee efforts to include decorating the town of Raynham, the center of the town, and also our Memorial Day Parade. We were so thrilled last year with our Memorial Day Parade because even though the weather didn't really cooperate, it was amazing how many people turned out to either march or ride in the parade, and even how many people turned out to watch the parade, and all the children waving their little flags. It was really awesome. So we started our planning already for this year, and we would like to request a vote of endorsement on the part of the board and also a parade permit. I do have a letter. I don't know if there's another form we need to fill out or not, but the date will be Saturday, May 24th, which is Memorial Day weekend. That same Saturday we thought worked well because it is a holiday weekend, and I know people are involved in other things during the course of the weekend. It's going to be the same route as last year. The parade will form at the Merrill and La Liberty and along Darrington Drive. And the only thing we changed is instead of a 10 o'clock start time, we thought we would move it up to 9 o'clock. Because even though it was cool last year, it can be really hot that last weekend in May, and that would give us a little bit of a chance to maybe beat the real heat of the day if that's the case. And also if people have weekend plans, they can enjoy the parade and then do whatever else they have on the agenda. So we will continue to work closely with our police and fire departments as our planning continues. Both Fire Chief Janice and Police Chief Donovan are on our planning committee, and we look forward to working with them. We want to certainly thank everybody in the community that has supported this effort. Last month, in January, we had a fundraiser to help raise the funds necessary for the parade. Our Pam Manconi from the town clerk's office, who is new on our committee, planned a treadathon, and it was extremely successful. We had great support from the community for that and raised $2,500. So, yeah, incredible. It was really good. So we're all set to go forward with the planning, and we just need that parade permit. And we're hoping for an even bigger and better parade this year, and the weather to cooperate a little bit better.
What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion that we approve the Salute to Veterans Committee recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. Thanks,
you
Pat.
very much.
Thanks, Kim, Mrs. Roberts.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
We will jump back up to department heads. Jim?
All set?
Yep.
I can report that the officer who was injured on duty leave is expected back to work in early March. The dispatcher that was on extended leave is back to work already, and our hiring process is ongoing to fill the vacancy created by the retirement. Approximately half of the full-time officers have completed their basic in-service training, and the part-time officers will start theirs in March. We've logged 847 incidents since we last spoke. One obviously hot button issue we've been seeing in the media is heroin. It's touched our town. I think it's touched every town in the Northeast United States. I think locally we're seeing a lot of media attention here. This issue isn't just locally in the city of Taunton or Brockton. There was 19 deaths in western Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago. Vermont has experienced this. New Hampshire has experienced this. So, whereas Raynham on this, we've always been very aggressive, the police department, in helping families to get assistance for this problem. We look at it very early on, and our recommendation to families is, if you notice your family member is starting to stray, if they're starting to commit minor offenses, something like shoplifting can be the first big red flag that something very serious is going on, and we recommend they take action on that. Unfortunately, we've had one death here in Raynham. On February 1st, we had a fatal overdose here in town, and we lost a Raynham resident who died in the city of Taunton about a week earlier, whose family had made a great effort to intervene on his behalf. But I can tell you that the police department is doing what we can. As far as there's this issue of Narcan and giving it to the officers, and we have no qualms with that, but we've never had a problem with that either. The Raynham Fire Department has been equipped with Narcan as long as I can remember, and they're always quickly on the scene, and they're right there with us. And I don't see where that's a crisis for the Raynham Police Department, where the fire department is almost always right there with us. So that's that issue. On a much better note, I have a couple of positive things to report. Good policing. On January 31st, the department responded to Park Place, down off of Middleborough Ave towards East Taunton, for a dementia patient who had been missing since 7 a.m., or potentially missing since 7 a.m. We received the call at noon, so 5 hours later. The officers responded, conducted an investigation. They started to communicate with other police agencies, put that together with information from citizens, which allowed our dog to start tracking, the new dog, in the area of Richmond and Route 44. The dog tracked to Metro Ford. Detective Riley went to Metro Ford and located the person healthy. He was just disoriented in the parking lot of Metro Ford, reunited him with his family. So excellent example of cooperation, coordination, and using things like the dog to help people. On February 16th, just before 11 p.m., we received a call for an alarm at the Raynham Flea Market. The officers responded, located a suspicious person in a vehicle, made contact with him. Through that investigation, they became more suspicious. They were able to establish the building had been broken into. They quickly established a perimeter which contained the bad people inside the building. They brought up the dog. Once they warned the people inside the building of the presence of the dog, they surrendered without any use of force. So 3 people were arrested, 3 young males, 2 from Brockton, 1 from Attleboro, for breaking into the flea market. And no property was lost. There was some damage that they caused to make the entry. And just this weekend, I guess, February 23rd at 4:30 in the morning, we received a call of a suspicious person on North Main Street. The officers got there and established that this person had run off the road, become stuck, trying to dig themselves out. In talking to the person, they established that he's probably under the influence of alcohol, and they arrest him for operating under the influence of alcohol. Later in the morning, we received a report from a plaza on South Street of a break-in. When the detectives come in, they start to look at this, they get some videotape from that area, and they realize that the drunk driving suspect matches the description of the B&E suspect in the vehicle. They obtain a search warrant for his vehicle. They recover evidence from in the vehicle that ties him both to that break and some other breaks that we had that were similar. There'd been break-ins on the overnight or attempts, mostly along the 138 corridor in Raynham and Easton. And with that, they now have probable cause to charge him with at least 2 breaks in Raynham and probably some in Easton as well. So we're doing our thing. And that's some really good work right there. So.
Any questions?
First, I think the dog deserves a citation.
Yes.
Solving 2 problems, that's pretty good for 1 week's work.
Yes.
And great detective.
For a new dog.
Yeah, the new dog, no less.
New dog.
He's off to a running start, so to speak.
Yes.
And great detective work on the last incident, tying
Yes.
that all together.
And even back to the one where the patrol officers responded, the detectives also respond, and they're able to conduct some investigation that helps out other crimes.
Excellent.
Outside of Manchester.
Good job.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. No other new business, any old business, Mr. Shivo?
None.
Mrs. Smith? Okay. Town Administrator's report, Mr. Buckner.
Finance Committee has budget review meeting set up for March 10th and March 24th. As they begin the process, I think the board has received its budget books for FY15, and I believe all budgets are in now, except for BR. Mass Gaming Commission began their public hearing or finding evaluation of its process during a series of public presentations. That was, I just messed that sentence up. Anyway, the meetings are live streamed on the MGC website, massgaming.com, starting at 9:30 a.m. each morning this week. I watched a little bit of it this morning. The license itself will be awarded this Friday, February 28th. Economic and Business Development Commission presents its annual Community Pride Awards Monday, March 3rd at 5 p.m. at Town Hall, and the public is welcome. Next Selectmen's meeting, we do have Roger Stolte on the agenda. I have a SMHG Board of Directors meeting, a final vote on the health insurance rates for next year. That's on Thursday, and Sursage monthly meeting, first Wednesday of the month, which is next week at 9 a.m.
Thanks, Randy. Any questions for Randy?
None.
Okay. Selectmen's report, Mr. Shivo.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. I noticed in this Sunday's paper, the Taunton newspaper, that there's an article on the entitled "Health Officials Expect State Will See West Nile and Triple E Every Year." And I know it's, I'll just make this one
Wishful
comment.
thinking.
You know, and I know it's a little bit chilly to be thinking about it, but this sort of problem rears its head every year, and it's best to get an early start. And one of the sentences here that disturbed me a little bit is, quote, "The department," this is the state, "will, quote, have a plan for the 212 season," and 212 they said, by the way, so I hope that's a typo. But anyway, I'll accept the fact that it's a typo. Even so, they'll have a plan for the season ready by May or June, and I would say that's a little bit late to really be planning. And I hope that that between the 3 of us and the rest of our town, especially the health agent, we'll get moving on this a little bit earlier to prompt them to develop a plan ahead of the problem, not after the problem.
I concur. Mrs. Smith, do you want to add anything before I?
The only thing I can add to that is we have been preaching to them for years.
No way.
It should start in May, April, or May, not way back, once the mosquitoes are all out and all. They keep saying for different reasons that they can't spray at that time, they're in the larva stage and what have you, but you know what? I still think that we're right. I really do. And I know Alan Perry, when he was here, had a great jump on that, and David picked up right where Alan left off. So I think hopefully we can jump, like you say, a good handle on it early.
We need our health agent to start the process now,
Yeah.
because the wheels grind very slowly at the state level, and
Certainly do.
when they publish a report, they're key people, that they'll be developing a plan in June. That's too little, too late.
No, I concur. Actually, it was 2 other sentences that actually upset me more than what you mentioned, but that was a running third. The first was at the beginning of it, and I think part of it you have highlighted, because I have my notes here. It's that the new commissioner, who I've yet to have the opportunity to meet, said that it shouldn't be construed any longer as an emergency. And yeah, and to me, and I know we all share this belief because we've all been affected by it because it's been in our town. I think every year it has to be treated as an emergency, and anything less, it means somebody's asleep at the wheel. And then tied for second, in my opinion, is the fact that they said aerial spraying takes so long to get up because there's lag time. Well, my proposal would be, and my suggestion would be to the state, there should be no lag time. There's no lag time come winter time when we have to plow the roads. They get those contracts done ahead of time. And where they themselves admit now that this is going to be a yearly occurrence, I believe it's prudent that they should have these contracts done well ahead of time, so the moment there's an issue, they can act appropriately and not wait to get these contracts done after we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or more cases. It's just, in my opinion, another example of the state not functioning properly, and unfortunately it's members of our community and surrounding communities who are being adversely affected by this reckless policy.
Well, and not to belabor the point, but, for years, we were at Raynham very much in the center of this, but every year goes by, it spreads out further, and certainly in southeast Massachusetts. So I should think it should be a higher priority as it becomes more of an issue in a wider geographic area.
I would think that because of the history of it, that they should be more proactive, because they know what's going to happen. They know that's going to happen every year. It has happened every year. So why aren't they in March, April, beginning to outline and get started with every 3 weeks spraying? I don't understand it. And of course, I'm not one of these people that are worried about the bees and the bugs and everything else, and that's probably why I can voice my opinion to say, spray. I don't
Last
care.
year it was dragonflies, by the way.
Oh, was it dragonflies?
Dragonflies, yeah.
They're
Which have a
very,
lifespan.
very pretty, and they're very, very nice. But you know what? I like people.
They have a lifespan, I think, of two weeks, so that's a real issue.
That's definitely an issue.
Mrs. Smith, anything
Sorry.
for us tonight?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. John Charbonneau's joined us. John, come on down.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Color. This is exciting.
Color. Are we doing
Well,
1,
the
2,
weather's been
3,
kind of
or
hot lately, so I think they're a little
Yeah,
color with
nice colors.
color helps?
courtesy of Serpent who produced the maps. Good evening. I appear before the Selectmen for a couple of purposes. One is to offer my monthly department head report, and the other is to make a decision on a matter that came up. There was a joint meeting between the Selectmen and the Planning Board back in mid-January that was duly posted to discuss an overlay district for registered marijuana dispensaries. At that meeting, the two boards came to a consensus for a concept that was suggested by Chairman Pacheco to establish an overlay district on the east side of town, extending from Church Street to the Taunton City line, to establish an overlay district within which registered marijuana facilities would be allowed by special permit with certain setback requirements. Subsequently, the next question, the last question that needed to be resolved was, how do we define the boundary? And there were three options. There were three potential options, and you'll see those options depicted in these maps that I handed out this evening. Option number one would be to establish a district extending from Church Street to the Taunton City line using a 500-foot buffer extending to the north and south from the center line of Route 44. Option number two would be to use to have the boundary be the rear property lines of all the parcels that front on Route 44 in that same area. And option number three would be to establish a boundary using the existing business district boundaries that currently exist on our zoning map. This was discussed by the planning board at their February 6th meeting, and I made a recommendation that they unanimously voted to support for option 1, which would be to establish a 500-foot buffer to the north and south of Route 44. And there are a couple reasons why I made that recommendation. The first is that these parcels that front on Route 44, for the most part, are fairly deep. Most of the parcels are a minimum of 700 to 750 feet deep. So having a 500-foot buffer would leave plenty of room on the larger lots for a potential facility. At the same time, it would maintain, on average, about a 200-foot buffer between the edge of this district and the residential A zoning district, which I think is important. And it makes it easier to regulate because the fact that it's a nice uniform area rather than following the jagged edges of property lines. Having a 500-foot buffer makes a nice uniform overlay district. So the planning board voted unanimously on February 6th to recommend option 1, which would be the 500-foot buffer. So I'm here tonight to present these options to the selectmen and ask for your support of that option.
Any quick discussion, questions?
I just make one observation, one comment, and in looking at these three options, I feel very comfortable with the recommendation by the planning board along with John's direction. I think the 500-foot buffer from center line is a very good compromise. It works well for the residential A people. Property, and I'm in support of his recommendation.
I concur. And I also like the 200 feet that you have between that and the residential, which gives a nice safety edge to the residential people so they don't have to be concerned with that. I would wholeheartedly recommend also. So I will second that if Mr. Chavo made that as a motion.
Yes, I make it a motion.
Thank you. I will also support that, and just as a minor aside, credit, I think, to Mr. Shivo for pushing us to explore other options outside of 138. I know that you were extremely passionate about this particular issue, and I think the result was something that all of us are comfortable with.
Yep.
And as Mrs. Smith just said, works well for the town moving forward. So if we have the motion and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's approved.
Thank you.
And just to add on to that, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board for coming together in January and coming together in the spirit of cooperation and being very open-minded, and it was a really good discussion, and it was really productive, and I think it really is a benefit to present something to town meeting that both boards wholeheartedly support. I think it's a better option even than presenting options to town meeting and having it potentially be a contentious situation. I think this is a good compromise and a good resolution for the town.
Good, great.
And finally, before I go, I'd just like to, you have my most recent version of a monthly report. Raynham Park Phase 1, there hasn't been any actual physical progress. I think everyone's waiting to hear what the Gaming Commission decides at the end of the week. However, the building commissioner has said that the Parks Corporation and the Carneys have actually retained a contractor who is ready to go should the Gaming Commission award the slot parlor license to Raynham Park. And he's been in a couple times over the past few weeks to speak with the building commissioner and find out what needs to be done if that should happen, and they seem fairly optimistic. So hopefully that will come to fruition. Medical marijuana, we just actually resolved that, and that's just a summary of what I presented tonight. The Route 138 Steering Committee, the last meeting we had a couple weeks ago was the most productive. All members came out of that thinking it was the most productive meeting they had in a long time. So we're meeting again next Monday night. So we're hoping to capitalize on the progress that's already been made with the goal of bringing something forward at the fall town meeting. So I'm pleased with the progress. We're starting to really gain some traction over the last couple meetings. The Board of Overseers has mostly been filled out, with, I believe, with the exception of an at-large resident. So I've decided to go ahead and schedule a meeting of the Board of Overseers for actually a little less than 2 weeks, a week from next Monday night. so we could start discussions on establishing priorities for economic development in the town, areas of, that we want to focus on. So I'm really excited about that. And lastly, Walmart has been in contact with me over the past few days about seeking an occupancy permit for an opening sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So my office has been in contact with various town departments and also representatives from Walmart and also the planning board's engineering peer review consultant to try and get any remaining issues. They're out there feverishly working. I know that just today, one of the building inspectors said that they were actually actively working on the street, on the traffic signals at the site drive. And I noticed they're working on sidewalks, so work is ongoing and they're trying to get things up to snuff enough to at least have issuance of a temporary occupancy permit sometime in the next week or so. So we're supposed to have as-built plans prepared by the end of the week, and then the planning board's engineering review consultant will go out sometime early to mid next week to inspect it, and hopefully they'll come before the planning board next week for a recommendation. So again, that's a fluid situation. They're doing work every day to try and get the last minute things buttoned up. So we'll see how they do.
Good. Thank you, John. Any questions?
None.
All right, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Moving on, excuse me, correspondence. It's very light tonight. All we have is a few tag days from Cheer Nation All-Stars, from William Reardon Disabled Veterans, and from Teen Challenge New England. Dates have been okayed by Randy. What is the board's pleasure?
Motion that we approve.
All in favor? Those are approved. Press time mark from the Gazette. Okay. No emergency business. Seeing no citizens nor community present this evening. What's the board's pleasure?
Adjourn, make a motion that we adjourn and perform administrative duties.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.